weighted dips will completely change your physique. I'm talking size, strength, and carryover. But did you know that there's more than one way to do it? So in this video, I'll be providing 3 powerful variations that'll really blow up your gains. And if you want a part 2, let me know. So the first style that you should all experiment with is the weighted paws dip. Why is it so effective? Well, the same reason that a pause bench is effective, or a pause squat. You're taking out much of the stretch reflex component. Of course, it still remains, but you're getting less bounce out the bottom. And in a weighted dip, your pecs are already being stretched to the absolute max. That's why it's one of the greatest mass builders for the chest. It's a super deep range of motion with maximum stretch. And it's not just holding the weight on your body, like you are in that stretch position while you pause. So it differs from a pause bench in that regard, right? Or a pause overhead press. So I would compare it to a cambered bar bench press with a pause. That's literally what you're doing when you perform this exercise. At the same time, it'll make you way stronger out of the hole, which is the most difficult part of a weighted dip. If you can get out of that position, you can usually lock the weights. So it's a specific movement, yields automatic carryover to weighted dips, and I would also say that it's going to raise your bench like crazy too. And it might be superior for building up the chest. My only concern with this movement though is that it might be a little bit more stressful on the shoulders. And for some people's anthropometry, might not be ideal. But for gains, it'll work guaranteed. And I personally recommend that you use a close grip when doing pause dips rather than wide. Also, it doesn't have to be 5 fucking seconds. 1 to 2 is perfectly fine, 3 at the most. So you add in this movement, it'll override the biological law of accommodation, get you strong jab at the same time. So the second variation you should try out is the dead dip. At least that's what I call it because I haven't seen anybody else do it on the internet. Basically, it is a dead stop dip from the bottom. This is where you set your body in the deep range of motion position and you just concentrically explode. Similar to a pen lay row, similar to a rack pull, a deadlift, etc. It's bottom up. You're not jumping up and then lowering yourself back down. It's the opposite. And I call it a dead dip because that's pretty much what it is. Concentric base, and you're not getting that stretch reflex or negative phase at the start. So you might find it to be more difficult. Now, my only concern with this exercise is that you shouldn't be jumping it. You want to make it strict. And there's 2 ways to do it, by the way. You can either elevate the plates on some mats so that it's not dangling down your waist. Okay, this will make it less difficult to cheat. Or you could just get in position and then explode. But be careful not to tippy-toe. If you start bouncing with your calves like this, you might get a little bit of momentum and it'll help you out, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I'd actually call that another variation for overload. But still, you want to do it strict form. The whole point of the dead dip is to get you very strong in the bottom position, just like a dead bench. If you want a full video on that, check out my dead benching segment. I break down all the benefits. So another awesome style. It's similar to pause benching in terms of performance gain. And I'd also say that it might be better on the shoulders, especially if you adjust the angles correctly. It doesn't have to be super deep range of motion if you don't want to. It could be kind of more of like a partial type lift depending on your anthropometry. But it's just dead dip. Of course, you're not getting the maximum weight of stretch, but it's still a good strength builder nonetheless. And you will get size provided the volume's high enough and progressive overload is taking place. So try out this style. And the final variation, which is highly recommended, is the slingshot dip. You can use any style you want, the reactive, boar, mad dog, regular. They're all going to override the biological law of accommodation and change the strength curve slightly. The benefit of using the slingshot is that it'll maintain the proper movement pattern for weighted dips with the elbow tuck as well and back tightness. And you're going to overload while enhancing injury prevention. Because now the slingshot gives you kind of like a second pair of weaker pecs. In fact, for many people who've tried to weighted dips for years, the slingshot is the cure. Now it provides that anthropometry that you were supposed to have in the first place. I've known guys with shoulder injuries and rotator cuff strains that can still do weighted dips with a sling. They can't do it free weights, but with a sling they could. And the way that I see it, if this is the only variation that allows you to do the exercise, I would still do it. Because you're getting all the size and strength benefits with the injury prevention to go with it. And it's still going to have amazing carryover and all that. So might I say that this variation is superior to the regular way of doing it just for the simple reason that it corrects the anthropometry problem? The fact that you don't have to worry about straining your shoulders? So to me, it's definitely worth trying out. And I recommend using all the variations. And of course, you can also pause on this too, okay? And you can slow down your tempo a little bit if you don't want to get as much bounce from the bottom. But I really, really, really recommend it, guys. And don't worry about being Mr. Macho. Oh, it's not raw. Nobody cares. Like if you can do 5 plates for reps on the slingshot dip, you think you're not going to be jacked and strong? Like, come on. Especially your raw numbers. They're all going to be up there if you decide to test it one day, okay? So it's not about ego. It's about results. And the slingshot delivers that. Especially on weighted dips. Like I would say it's the best variation out there, to be honest. So there you have it, man. 3 dips for serious gains. I got a lot more variations to share, so if you want more of that content, post your feedback in the comment section. So make the best of gains, and I'll see you around.